Okay, Liz, so I've had a lovely morning here this morning watching you and some of your staff school young horses,
Mm,
and been fascinating. So, something you don't see as a normal sort of race goer or racing fan.
yeah.
So, professionally, you remain Lizzie Kelly, but at home, you're Lizzie and Ed Partridge and run Valentine Bloodstock. So, can you tell us a bit about what it is you do here?
Yeah, so what we do is we buy foals from France, beautifully bred, hopefully, and lovely stamps of horses. And then they come here, and we basically, through a couple of years, will get them to the point where at two, they're able to sort of do all the things that they're required to do. So that would be, do some flat works or dressage type stuff, canter around the ring, gallop, go and walk around the roads and also jump. And we break in a very French style. And it means that, they, when they are three, they could either go juvenile hurdling or you can take your time and go down a bumper route. But those horses will be gone to their trainer by then. So that's what we do. And within that, there are, different sections of times when we will do things with them. We feel like it's something that, more people, should do. We love doing it this way. We think it's the best way for the horses themselves. Our clients are generally actually owners who don't want to be spending the huge sums that you need to be spending at the sales in order to get the type of quality of horse that they will buy as a foal. And that's kind of our USP. That's, you getting a quality animal. I often describe it as like having a racehorse on finance. So rather than going and spending 100,000 at sales, buy the horse 2 years earlier, and you just sort of pay for that horse to go through the process here with us. And yeah, people have been really supportive of the idea, and it's working pretty nicely. Yeah.
So, the way you do it, how have you come to that way?
Um, Obviously, my mum, that's how she breaks horses in. The French style is very, very similar. So we're working off a few different things. Ed's background is studs, so he's very used to dealing with foals and yearlings, whereas that's something that I wouldn't necessarily really have ever done. Um, yeah, I mean, buying at foal age is pretty young, and you sort of, yeah, thankfully Ed knows what he's looking at, because I wouldn't have a clue at that stage of their lives. But yeah, to me, I think that we produce really nice horses. But some people, I think we're pinhookers, but that's not what we're doing. We'll buy one for ourselves that goes through the process, and we will sell at a sale further down the line. But every horseman will know that when you start out, you buy the nice stuff for your clients. You buy something that you quite like for cheap for yourselves, and you hope that it works out. And for us, it has. We've had good results with a couple of our own horses. But what we do primarily is source foals for clients who are owners, who will go into training with their chosen trainer, 2 years later, basically.
Okay, now I've said to you earlier and to Ed, as a layman, I was quite surprised. Like what I expected was a wild horse in the middle of a corral, and some brave person would go out there, jump on the back, and it would buck around for a bit, and then once he tamed it, that was job done.
Yeah.
So can you just explain a bit about how it actually is done?
Yeah, okay, so to break in a horse, which is an unfortunate phrase, but yeah, to break in a horse, you go from having a horse that's never been touched to obviously sitting on it and teaching it all the things it will require for a career as a racehorse. So as they arrive at foals, we start early. So we'll start putting, a little bit in their mouth and letting them, find out and figure out what that feels like. Putting little things on their back. It might even be as simple as a rug that like is going to keep them warm, and they get used to the feeling. They'll then be long reined with someone walking beside them and leading them, but someone also walking behind them with a really long rein, like pair of lead ropes, essentially, which teaches them that actually in their lives, their instructions are going to come from behind them, because obviously a horse has a rider on their back. And you progress through those stages and you teach them like to steer and wear tack. And then you put the rider on, and that can sometimes get a bit hairy. You know, they can sometimes decide to get rid of the rider. They don't like that very much. But generally, by the time you've got them to that point, you know, they're fairly used to the process, and they'll sort of understand that right now this person's going to sit on me. And once you're sat on them, then you're away. Like once they're happy for you to actually ride them, then it's just going and teaching them as much as you possibly can. So that's why we do such a mixture of stuff. So the flat work, sort of the dressage, that will teach them to bend, to use their body properly. But if you canter them, you know, to go forward but also relax, and when to go quicker and when to go slower, and to go around a bend on a gallop or up a hill, and just gets them fit. But obviously the main thing for us is to make sure that you're never asking them to do too much and bottoming them, or, you know, causing structural issues with their skeleton, or, you know, creating issues, but also to do enough that they're learning something all the time and they're not kind of getting a bit silly and throwing themselves around and that sort of thing. So it's quite, the way we do it, because they're here for such a long time, we have the luxury of being able to break up all those processes into small little, you know, bite-sized chunks. Whereas some places, you know, you have like a segmented time where you can do it. Maybe in the summer when all the horses are out on holiday and you've got 10 weeks to get through the babies. But here we have the luxury of breaking it down. And so that's why we kind of do it in little bits. But the main bulk of what they'll do is in the summer of their 2-year-old year, they'll tend to do about 10 weeks. But when they come out of that, I'd like to think that, I mean, apart from the fact that you never would, they could practically run in a race like that day, because they wouldn't win, they wouldn't finish the race because they're not fit enough, but like they have the mental capacity to actually go through all the different steps of a race. That's kind of where I'm trying to get to with them. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fairly holistic way of doing it. I think we do it really slowly, but I think we, you know, have some high expectations of them and of what tasks they need to complete before we're happy. And I also think the other side of what we do is treat them very much like horses. So, you know, going around the roads and having to meet traffic, going out in the field, being ridden on their own, jumping sort of lots of different types of things, whether it's poles or barrels or mini hurdles, that sort of thing. And I really enjoy doing it, because you just see you're with that horse at like a really special time when they're developing so much. You know, we bring these little babies who arrive from France in October, and then like 2 years later, they're just like something completely different. There can be so much there obviously is so much development in that time that, yeah, it can be a really sort of magical experience with like every single one of them.
Now, I was going to ask you earlier, when you've been used to riding horses in the Cheltenham Gold Cup, etc., what do you do for your kicks? But having watched today, it's still quite hairy, isn't it, what you have to do with these young horses?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't always work, and they're always going to sort of question whether they really want to do that sometimes. You're asking them to do things for the first time in their lives. So there's always going to be a hesitancy. More often than not, you know, it goes well. Of course, there are always going to be horses that don't understand straight away. They're not as precocious. They need more time to do things. But also, like, little accidents can happen. You know, a horse today, we jumped the hurdle one way and he was fine, wasn't he? And we turned the other way and he thought, no thanks. And I was out the side door. But like that's, sometimes you just have to appreciate that it's just, they're just babies. And they are going to have, it's like dealing with toddlers. That is really what it's like. I'm basically, you know, a nursery teacher, but they're horses and not children.
No, and there's quite a list of things that you do, which is all on your website. Do you have any plans to train?
No, not at the moment. No, I think we're really happy doing what we do, but also we're in a really nice position where everyone's kind of happy. There's not really like a contentious point about, you know, should a horse run in this race, should a horse run in that race, because we just do what we do, and the owners are happy, our clients are happy with what we do. There's never really anything to fall out about, you know, and that's a really nice position to be in. I was brought up in a racing yard and I can see how relationships can deteriorate, and we just don't really want to put ourselves in that position. I think being a trainer now, you know, prize money's going down, trainers are having to diversify already. I don't really see why I would train when what I do at the moment is sort of one of the things that trainers diversify to.
Okay, finally, you've talked a fair bit about planning, whether it's a race or whether it's a horse's career, whatever, throughout this interview. Have you got a plan for 10 years? Where are you and Ed hoping to be in 10 years' time in this business?
Hopefully still married, I suppose. Yeah, no, not really. I think we'll just carry on doing what we do. And I think at the moment we're both really happy doing what we do. Ed spends a lot of time in France buying horses for people. He also buys horses in training as well. So he's not just a one-trick pony, and I think that that's important. We're very lucky where we live. We're trying to build a house here. And yeah, for now, you know, we are where we are. You never know what might be around the corner. I think if there was ever going to be a massive change in our lives, it's that we'd have to move to France at some stage, because, you know, we're there so much. But really, I mean, my French is okay, but it's not great. So I'd have to take a few French lessons before that was something that we could consider.
It's just a shame I can't finish this interview with a bit of French, but I didn't pay attention to skill. Anyway, Lizzie Kelly, thank you very much.
Thank you.